All right, everyone. Last night was a microcosm of Biden's presidency, and Biden's presidency is a microcosm of the failure of globalism as the paradigm, the social and political paradigm wherein shifts. This is what I believe. Biden's presidency is basically, it's a small aspect, and a very visible one, of the confusion of what globalism stands for, which is, payoffs for the rich. Everyone else has to exist under increasing amounts of socialism. Wealth is redistributed to the top from the bottom through inflation in the United States and now in other countries. You've got regulation wars without any particular end, and when they do end, it's not quite clear what goal was achieved or if any goal was even attempted to be achieved in some cases. First and foremost, though, before I get into this, and we'll definitely be laughing about the chaos that was the White House yesterday. I wasn't the only one that noticed it. Medicare was laughing his ass off about it too, among others. There will be a pinned comment down below if you're watching this video on YouTube with links to 4 other video hosting sites that I use. Keep in mind I make 2 exclusive videos a day on those platforms. Also, I am now on Twitch. The last night's initial foible about Twitch actually was StreamYard's fault. It wasn't Twitch's fault. I still wouldn't be surprised if I end up banned off the platform at some point, because it's run by people that are, to the left of Reddit by and large, but I'm still multi-streaming. So when I do reaction streams, you can watch on YouTube, you can watch on Twitch. One great thing about StreamYard is the comments for both go to one place. That's really great for me, really helpful. So, keep in mind, yesterday what we saw, and I think it was prefaced on internal polling, was complete chaos in the sense of the U.S. political system. You had Biden give a massively truncated address, ignoring questions as usual. He was late, significantly late. The White House stream of him was literally up at the same time as the initial presser about COVID. While Psaki was scheduled, Psaki was like an hour late, and you had 2 streams competing at the exact same time, leading to absolute confusion. Now, I checked multiple sites with regards to the White House scheduling, and I think here's what happened. I think that all of this was planned the day before. I think that in his initial conference with his staff that he has every morning, his morning brunch meeting where he sips on melted ice cream and pretends to listen to what's being said, I think that Biden was warned by his staff, your approval ain't done cratering. You go to RCP right now, he's now almost 2.5 points underwater, and keep in mind he hasn't even gotten a year into his presidency. The problem for him is the trajectory still appears to be sharply downward. If he loses his mandate at this point, the infrastructure bill hasn't been passed. That hazards that, because increasingly, if he's less popular, working with him or doing his bidding becomes less and less important to members of Congress who are Democrats. The problem is that with additional polling probably telling him Newsom may very well be on the way out, and it's a sort of a feed off of one another situation. Biden gets less popular, ergo the Democrats look less popular. Newsom therefore becomes less popular. Newsom gets recalled. Larry Elder becomes California governor. You have Feinstein potentially retire. The Dems quickly lose the Senate. Feinstein has already come out in favor of not ending the filibuster. She may actually be waiting for the recall results in order to resign. This is something that they seem inordinately worried. If they thought Feinstein was actually perfectly healthy and everything's all right, oh, you can wait till the midterms, no problem, right? Just work in the meantime. Then you've got the Manchin, Sinema, and Shaheen problem with regards to the Dem Senate. Biden's presidency is coming off the rails already. Totally predictable. I predicted it. I think most cognizant commentators did. But keep in mind, here's the problem for the globalists. And again, this is the microcosm. Biden's presidency has failed in record time, despite the fact that virtually the entire time, virtually the entire corporate media and all of the Fortune 500 tech firms shielded him. They deliberately manipulated public discourse, deliberately pushed propaganda, censored and abused his critics, and constantly ignored any news that was negative for the Biden administration. Despite all of this, he is finally underwater. Again, in near record time. Most presidents don't suffer this kind of drop in their first year. The only close comparison is Trump, who never had a mandate to begin with, again, because of the flip side, which was the entire corporate complex hated him. He got no positive coverage from most legacy media outlets. There were some outlets throughout the entire Trump presidency who never created a positive story about him. Even when they said, well, he did an okay job at this, it was minced words and as well, but, we still got to remember, he is basically the less intelligent Hitler or Goebbels or something. This is a microcosm of globalism. Globalism is beginning to fail in the United States and elsewhere in popularity, and populist movements are rising up, despite the fact that, again, the entire corporate and neoliberal political complex, lock, stock, and barrel 100% support it because it's lucrative for them. But people are beginning to see through that. And people are starting to break through the big tech wall with new tech, with blockchain and things, which is why the government's embattling all these things, trying to sue these sites and services. You've got that. You've got all sorts of pushback against war, which has been a hallmark of the last couple of decades. Warmongering, nation building. Oh, we got to liberate this group of people because Taliban or something. That entire mythology is beginning to dry up. I think that the push for censorship, definitely they overshot the mark, moved way too quickly, and now they've alienated certain segments of the voting public that normally would be receptive to the idea of, well, think of the children, we're going to ban these Nazis. I think the paradigm is still shifting, and this is something that I've foreseen for years now, which is that the globalists, stand-in for the Democrats in the United States, although the rhinos too, have overstretched. They went too far, and now their paradigm is completely collapsing in on itself. Biden is their microcosm, and Biden is definitely speeding that process along, because nobody likes him. I never believed the push polling to begin with. When you oversample Democrats by 15, 20 points, you're going to get a more positive result in reality for the Democratic president in name. I think his real approval numbers are probably 10 points underwater right now. I think that his disapproval is well above 50. And again, there's always a lag in polling. Several of the polls being aggregated or began before the Afghan withdrawal's failures were fully noted. Well, once those peter out over the next week, you're going to see a more realistic number, which will stabilize at some level. I'd be surprised if he ever hits 50% approval again in his presidency, because I can't imagine anything that he has suggested being interested in actually doing, all of which is globalistic, will actually be popular. And the handful of things where he could at least congeal like the Democrats on, you have to parlay between the centrist Dems, so-called, they're still, liberals in the U.S. sense, of course. I know that means different thing from what Europeans think of as a liberal movement. In the United States, it's a shorthand for leftist movements, pan-leftist. And then the far, far, far left, the socialist types like AOC and Bernie Sanders, you have to somehow get these people to agree on paper to fiscal policy. Well, it's nearly impossible. I've been warning the Democratic Party now for 5 years about this schism within the party. By the way, this is a good thing. The best thing that can happen now is that the Democrats get crushed in the midterms. I don't even mean Tea Party levels of crushed. I mean handed their asses so severely that Biden possibly gets removed from office. And I'm serious about that. And I think that would be good for Democrats. Let me tell you why. Your party is filled with dead weight. It's filled with dross. It's filled with politicians that constantly use leftoids as pawns and then forget about them after being elected. Leftoids who want to fundamentally destroy the entire premise of U.S. society, and a bunch of starch-suited politicians playing both sides that just want to grift and make money. That's not a tenable solution. That's not called having a big tent party. It's called having a circus tent party. It makes no sense the way the party has actually been structured. You're not going to get winning candidates coming out from such an environment because they're never going to be able to work together on the federal level. You can't wine and dine near communistic individuals while saying, okay, well, these centrists are okay too, because they're never going to work together. In the Republican Party, they didn't end up with this problem. They went through their paradigm shift a couple years early, solidified under a more or less populist banner. It is the party of Trump. Well, at least there's something gluing the party together. You can think because CNN has told you so that means Nazism or something. You're wrong, but you can conceive of that, but it is a congealed movement. It's not fractious. The number of never-Trumpers there has dwindled to near nothing. Lindsey Graham sounds like Trump sometimes now. Fuck, even the neocons at least pretend. They have to at least talk a big game in order to stay in the good graces of the handful of leaders within the party, none of which are the old neocon types. The Bushes have become an afterthought. It's a good thing. All the globalists in the GOP are embattled too. Liz Cheney will be out. Mitt Romney might not get back in. Of course, he's, what isn't he? I think he's almost Biden's age. Anyways, he should just fucking retire and go back to his 6-car garage with an elevator in it because it's 2 stories. That's about all. Peace out.